Almost every single one of these thumbnails, if it doesn't have to do with Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, has to do with Tyler Robinson. It has to do with ERIKA Kirk. To say she is fixated and obsessed is an understatement. This was her series, The Bride of Charlie, of which not a single credible revelation was delivered. The fact that so many people watched it to the tunes of millions tells me that her audience, which I'm assuming is going to be mostly mothers, are delighting in the slander and character assassination of a grieving widow. That is not Christian. That is not what defines conservative values. It is antithetical to everything Candace Owens claims to stand for. She uses her Catholic conservative values to justify this witch hunt.
His best friend is his wife. His most endeared confidant is his wife, not Candace, no matter what.
That is why Candace Owens is going after the head of TPUSA.
Hey, grace and peace, everybody. We're back. Dominique is a fantastic content creator, and I wanted to just highlight her video that she recently did about what's going on with ERIKA Kirk, Candace Owens, TPUSA, Under Siege, all that kind of good jazz. It's a pretty lengthy video, so I'm going to jump in as quickly as I can and let Ms. Hoffman talk it out. The link will be down in the description as well. So let's get at it. Let's get active.
Candace Owens has spent the latter part of 7 months, almost immediately after Charlie Kirk's assassination, attacking ERIKA Kirk. She has come out in defense of Tyler Robinson, claiming that if the gun does not fit, you must acquit. Obviously riffing off of the famous line from the O.J. Simpson trial, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. In her campaign against ERIKA Kirk, of which there is no actual evidence for the claims that she is making, she has not only ruined the reputation of TPUSA, radicalized the youth demographic that TPUSA targets, but she has also helped and aided Tyler Robinson's defense. It is going to be really hard to find an unbiased jury for this trial. And beyond that, no doubt, they will find points that Candace Owens has made in her videos to incorporate in Tyler Robinson's defense. This is not someone who was friends with Charlie Kirk. This is not someone pursuing truth. Candace Owens has blamed ERIKA Kirk herself for killing her husband so that she could become the CEO of Turning Point. She's blamed his best friends, his pastors. She's implicated many sovereign nations, including Egypt, Canada, the United States, all the way from the FBI down to the municipal level and the university. She's blamed Israel and France. Her crazy Egyptian plane theory suggested that for 3 years, Egypt followed ERIKA Kirk around everywhere she went. She also peddled the idea that the Macrons, who she's also in a legal battle with, killed Charlie Kirk to distract her and her investigation because she was about to reveal how the Macrons were connected to the MK Ultra experiments. She's also implicated Israel because she said that Charlie was about to change his position on Israel, despite the fact that he published a book on the importance of observing Passover. And while he acknowledged that there are many things to critique about Israel, including that they were losing the PR campaign, he was still vehemently a Christian who believed in Judeo-Christian values and the strategic relationship between the United States and Israel. And he said that up until the very end. Every time Candace has said there was going to be more news or that they were so close to the truth, she comes up with another schizophrenic idea. And just to visualize, this is her channel. The only time she's taken a break talking about ERIKA Kirk has been to discuss Trump and what's happening in Iran. Because of course, on top of being a stellar investigator, she's also a foreign policy expert. And remember, everything points back to the Jews. In her campaign against ERIKA Kirk, she has slandered her for essentially being a slut. She's implied that she abused young girls and sexually fetishized them. She's gone after her former boyfriends and past romantic interests. And she's even made fun of ERIKA Kirk's mother, who from what I can gather is chronically ill. So not only is ERIKA Kirk processing the public assassination of her husband, having to raise 2 young children, as she's pointed out, be the primary breadwinner, which of course Candace Owens also took issue with that. She's had to concern herself with the character assassination campaign of Candace Owens. She's capitulated to Candace's claims, even when they met to discuss the investigation, where Candace demanded to know every aspect of it, which first, she is not the spouse of Charlie Kirk. She's not entitled to that information. And beyond that, to protect the integrity of the prosecution, ERIKA Kirk herself likely is not privy to a lot of that information. ERIKA Kirk traveled all the way to Nashville In the
All the
middle
way.
of mourning her husband's assassination, having 2 young children, trying to run TPUSA to accommodate Candace Owens and her demands, of which Candace secretly recorded their conversation. And despite her earlier claims that the only 2 people that could stop her investigation were her husband and ERIKA KIRK, she continued and actually then geared her investigation towards ERIKA after that conversation this past November. Candace Owens is evil. She's a deeply maniacal and jealous person. And I think she bitterly hates ERIKA KIRK because she married Charlie. I'm speculating here, but I think there was an unrequited interest in Charlie of which he was not interested in return, and instead started dating ERIKA soon after. And there was some sort of an ego scar there that Candace is now exploring. Almost every single one of these thumbnails, if it doesn't have to do with Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, has to do with Tyler Robinson. It has to do with ERIKA KIRK. To say she is fixated and obsessed is an understatement. This was her series, The Bride of Charlie, of which not a single credible revelation was delivered. The fact that so many people watched it to the tunes of millions tells me that her audience, which I'm assuming is going to be mostly mothers, are delighting in the slander and character assassination of a grieving widow. That is not Christian. That is not what defines conservative values. It is antithetical to everything Candace Owens claims to stand for. She uses her Catholic conservative values to justify this witch hunt. About 5 months ago, another important new right actor, Megyn Kelly, refused to speak out against Candace Owens and her smear campaign, despite herself claiming to be a close and dear friend of Charlie Kirk. This is not a free speech issue. Speech is not totally free in the United States. There are libel and slander laws, and I hope that ERIKA KIRK sues the shit out of Candace Owens.
Tell us how you really
This is
feel,
a tactic
Dominique.
of the new right. If you object to a morally questionable, likely fallacious, or completely propagated claim, whether it be from Trump and his foreign policy persuasion when it comes to Iran, the role of Israel, to ERIKA KIRK herself, the immediate knee-jerk reaction, if you're Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly, is, well, you're violating my free speech. You can say what you want to say. You can critique. You can raise suspicions. Absolutely. But that is not what Candace has done. She has implicated ERIKA KIRK. This campaign to radicalize TPUSA's youth demographic, which has been wildly successful, has had real-world implications. And we're seeing that in ERIKA KIRK canceling a TPUSA event. Remember, she is the CEO of Turning Point. She is the widow of Charlie Kirk. Within 7 months, people have not only turned on ERIKA KIRK, praised Candace Owens as a dear and close friend, which is beyond wild. The masses are deceived and cannot critically think and see this woman for who she is.
I do think that's something that needs to be said. Like, people are trying to elevate Candace Owens' quote unquote friendship with Charlie Kirk, whether it was real or not, whether they were best friends or not in real time. They're trying to elevate her above even his wife. Like, well, she's his best friend. She's his good friend, and she's grieving her friend's death, as if that is greater than his wife. Like, that's crazy. His best friend is his wife. His most endeared confidant is his wife, not Candace, no matter what. And by the way, nobody can actually prove or show that Candace was actually in communication with Charlie Kirk anytime within the last 36 months. Show it. Because if she did, if she could, she would have shown it. So anyway, let's go.
One person, if we were to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, that we should not attack, again, for claims that are completely fallacious, it would be his dear wife, his bride, the woman that he chose to marry.
There we go.
And if you listen to Candace Owens, he was somehow deceived into marrying her. Fox News says ERIKA KIRK canceled her planned appearance at a Turning Point USA event at the University of Georgia on Tuesday after receiving what organizers described as very threats. Not a threat, threats plural. Turning Point USA spokesperson Andrew Colvett said ERIKA KIRK, wife of late conservative icon Charlie Kirk, received some very serious threats in her direction, prompting her absence at the event in Athens. ERIKA KIRK took 2X. And she said, I was so looking forward to tonight's event at the University of Georgia with our Vice President, JD Vance. But after all our family has been through, I take my security team's recommendations extremely seriously. Thank you to our amazing Georgia chapter for your support. God bless you all. Vice President JD Vance came out and had this to say in defense of ERIKA KIRK.
Kirk is struggling with this. And of course, that's terrible, unspeakable. Most of us cannot even put ourselves in her shoes, while at the same time, she's trying to make sure that Charlie's legacy doesn't die. And in that context, everybody is attacking her over everything, and they're lying about her. And it's one of the most disgraceful things that I've ever seen in public life. And I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in my life as a political leader. And I will tell you that the people who tell you, I was there with her, I was holding her hand, my wife was hugging her while we loaded Charlie's body onto Air Force Two and said the Lord's Prayer. The people telling you that ERIKA wasn't grieving her husband are full of shit. And we need to be honest about that fact. But so
I really wish people would stop saying people who are attacking ERIKA Kirk. It's Candace Owens. She's the one attacking ERIKA Kirk. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, their appeasement of her and their silence is them condoning what she's saying. They just get the benefit of plausible deniability because it didn't come out of their own mouth. But they're benefiting from the same campaign. Again, this is a multifaceted agenda. Destroy TPUSA's legacy. Why? Because TPUSA under Charlie Kirk yielded some of the most significant influence on the right, specifically on the youth vote, and who could galvanize the youth voter. Charlie Kirk is largely responsible for helping push President Trump over the line in 2020. Now, TPUSA is bitterly divided. There is a recent poll, and I'll show this because I think it's significant. If TPUSA is a representative microcosm of the larger youth population and of the GOP, then this is a really important statistic. 35% of Republicans under 44 say Jews pose a threat to the quote unquote American way of life. Let that sink in. Among Republicans over 45, that number is 23%. So that is a 22 percentage difference. So again, this new right and this multifaceted campaign is attempting to not only smear ERIKA Kirk, but change the policy prescriptions and the social and political worldview of TPUSA's youth demographic, shifting that Overton window to embrace radical neo-fascist and even neo-Marxist policies and ideas, a worldview that is forming very similarly to the woke left, which is grievance-based. There's an oppressor-oppressed paradigm. The Jews, in the case of the right, are the oppressor class, and the white Christian is the oppressed. And from that, a robust foreign policy and domestic policy prescription is forming. Look at the current war in Iran. How did the GOP go from the party that celebrates American exceptionalism to the party that apologizes to belligerent anti-Western regimes for interfering when all other avenues of diplomacy or sanctions have failed? There has been a robust campaign within the United States funded by China, Russia, and Qatar to shift the policy prescription of the electorate within the GOP to favor a policy of appeasement that only benefits those very anti-Western regimes. And they have been wildly successful. A concerted effort has been made to change the youth demographic of the GOP, which might as well be synonymous with TPUSA. That is why Candace Owens is going after the head of TPUSA, because ERIKA Kirk represents the policy prescriptions of her husband, which are antithetical. They are classic conservative MAGA values to where these anti-Western regimes are trying to take the GOP, to the very fringes of radicalism, to embrace anti-Western enemies abroad, if not as allies, as not threats, which is wild. And there are social, political, economic implications to this that affect every single American. When they were saying ERIKA Kirk received many threats, I would bet that those threats were not coming from the left, were coming from the right and their own base, and maybe even members of their own chapter at University of Georgia. And that
I really don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that. I can see where she's getting it from, so I'm not in disagreement and arguing, but I was like, I don't want to believe that especially here in Georgia, like that our students at UGA, which is down the street around the corner from my house, have become that foolish and that ignorant in such a short amount of time. I mean, I understand her point. I just don't want to believe it. So anyway, shout out, Dominique.
Case, the enemy is very much from within. And the fact that ERIKA Kirk either felt that the threats were credible enough or capitulated to that dissent of having her on the stage with Vice President J.D. Vance is extremely telling of where her waning influence, the influence of Charlie's legacy, and of TPUSA at large is at. Unfortunately, as Vice President Vance said, ERIKA Kirk is trying to preserve Charlie's legacy. I believe it's tarnished past the point of repair because now Charlie Kirk is not being represented as Charlie actually was. In the fictional and fallacious retelling of Candace Owens, he's become someone else entirely. And that reimagined Charlie Kirk is the one whose influence is changing the youth vote within the GOP towards the radical fringe extremes. And so how did Candace Owens respond to the news that ERIKA Kirk backed out, which is essentially everything Candace could ever hope for? It means that her campaign against ERIKA has been successful. She just continued to pile on the psychological terrorism. She said, stop, period. This is exhausting. You pulled out because of bad ticket sales. For the same reason, TP Faith had to reschedule the Pastor Summit and various other events. First, I'm pretty sure that chapter events at a university are free. So again, Candace Owens lies about everything and manufactures motive. I don't think that there were any ticket sales. Could be wrong. However,
they were free. It was free. So it wasn't ticket sales. So that wasn't the issue. But again, Candace's people won't even do do themselves the decency to look and just check, just to see if what she said is true. They've outsourced all of their thinking to Candace, and whatever Candace says is the thought that they have. That's crazy work.
But that's not how events on college campuses are typically run. People don't believe you and don't line up for you because you struggle to tell the truth about even the most basic facts. Again, the mere propaganda, the gaslighting, because this is exactly who Candace is. Where is the video of Charlie appointing you as CEO weeks before his death? Again, she's so fixated on ERIKA being CEO. If you listened to Charlie Kirk talk about his wife, it was so clear that he held her in the highest regard and wanted her to protect his legacy. And even if Charlie Kirk did not officially say that himself, the board of TPUSA decided that that was appropriate. So who is Candace Owens, a former employee, but an outsider now, to challenge that decision? Again, it reeks of jealousy and just an evil that I have a really hard time putting words to. The Secret Service sits above your security team. They're actually viable threats, plural. But again, Candace is not known for her grammar. The vice president would not have continued the event. Well, if the threats were directed at ERIKA Kirk herself, then yes, your closest threat is the shit public relations team you hired that continues to operate under the delusion that you are smarter than the public. This is just mean girl. This is evil. This is someone psychologically torturing a victim, a widow. And remember, this is everything that Ben Shapiro has also been saying. So he called out Megyn Kelly. He said, don't worry, Megyn. I never asked you to protect me. You won't even protect Charlie Kirk's widow from the monster accusing her of murdering Charlie. And again, this was back in March of this year. This is what Megyn Kelly had to say, because I also hold Megyn Kelly just as squarely responsible. You think protecting ERIKA means calling out Candace? Yes. I think if you don't wish to call attention to a negative attack, don't call attention to it. Does that work for you, Ben? May I have your approval now? No, I don't think so. Because you and your little cohort of sick followers aren't mad about anything involving me and ERIKA Kirk, who you barely know. Trust me, I've checked. You turned on me when I wouldn't defriend Tucker, whose criticism of Israel you can't stand. Again, it's not just a criticism of Israel. It is a reworking and propagating of Western values to turn against the West itself and America being the spearhead of the West. And when I defended Candace's questions about whether Charlie, before he was killed, was growing more skeptical of Israel, he was. He wasn't. It was much more nuanced than that. You're right that, at ERIKA's request, I tried to help her and Candace get to an okay place, an effort that failed and which now you mock. But Christians, like me, are pretty big on forgiveness and reconciliation. Don't call yourself a Christian, Megyn, when, again, just as much as a mean girl as Candace Owens, you are not condemning the vitriol and the evil campaign against ERIKA Kirk. You don't get to clutch your pearls and claim to be a Christian. And in this context, this is when people say, well, being a Christian or saying Christ is king is not anti-Semitic. She's throwing her Christianity in the face of a Jew. She's saying, well, Christians believe in forgiveness. There's a subtle undertone there, but it exists. I tried to help you and Tucker get there too. Remember, more of my cowardice, I guess. Megyn Kelly is still so offended that she was called a coward, which it was a very generous term to describe her character. One final point. You handled your anger towards me in the most despicable way possible. Did you call me, text me, raise it with me privately after all we have been through over the years? No, you attacked me on stage at the Turning Point event without so much as a heads up because you were too chicken shit to say it to my face. I texted you afterwards and you never responded. You didn't have the balls to have a face-to-face talk or even to text or call about it. You are the coward, Ben. And your moral preening, prodigious lectures, and holier-than-thou judgments are the reasons you are losing fans and, more than that, friends at a record. You always told me you were a, quote, family guy, not a friend guy. I learned the hard way what you really meant. To correct Megyn Kelly, at her live show in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was at, Ben Shapiro said that Candace Owens has implicated ERIKA Kirk, which she had. Her tweet said ERIKA Kirk knows everything, okay? This was before she went out on a full-fledged campaign against ERIKA herself. Ben Shapiro brought that up aptly and said, if Charlie Kirk was such a dear friend to you, why would you not condemn this bad idea? And then at her next live show, Megyn Kelly said that Ben Shapiro lied and that Candace Owens had not made a claim against ERIKA Kirk and she ran interference for Candace Owens. So she first came out and rebuked Ben Shapiro for what he said. And then Ben went on stage. And I have no idea what their private conversations look like. But for Megyn Kelly then to say, you attacked me first is blatantly false. These are the grifters. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Donald Trump himself, Marco Rubio. They're all holding the party line. They are espousing traditional GOP, domestic and foreign policy prescriptions. Megyn Kelly and Carlson are the ones who have radically shifted. And then they condemn the mainstream as if they're the ones to blame for either calling out their radical shift or for holding the policy prescription and values that, again, they themselves held. President Trump nails it on the head.
But, I told her, you ought to sue some of these. They're so jealous of ERIKA. I said, you ought to sue their... I can say you're not allowed to say this. You have to be nicer. Sue their ass off.
100%. When you capitulate to aggressive rogue actors, again, I said this at the beginning, whether that be when we're talking about Iran, when you give them an inch, they take a mile, and also with a bully like Candace Owens, who's a media personality. Give her a half an inch, she's going to take 10 miles. Bad faith actors, evil people, view, even if it's from a place of kindness or what I'm sure ERIKA Kirk believes to be Christian restraint, as a green light to continue. Even someone like Joe Rogan, who yields huge influence, instead of objectively looking at what Candace Owens has done and say, that just seems a little bit effed up, And by the way, he interviewed Candace Owens years ago and quite obviously did not like her. He's jumped on the bandwagon of making fun of the way ERIKA KIRK looks, or she's not a grieving widow, or she's wearing sparkles on stage at TPUSA and there's fireworks, which by the way, that's how Charlie Kirk came out to every event. Every AmFest was like that. TPUSA will never yield the influence it once did. Their base is essentially split in half between MAGA conservatism and this new right, which is going to metastasize and no doubt influence more of TPUSA's college population and young voter population to adopt those fringe radical policies. Or someone else like a Nick Fuentes is going to come in and fill that power vacuum and offer the GOP youth a radical alternative. He already has. You don't need chapters on college campuses. You need talking heads like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes on their podcast telling you who to vote for. And by the way, Nick Fuentes has told his viewers to vote for Democrat candidates to oppose those Republican candidates in specific districts who support Israel. So if you don't think that the new right is going to weaponize the vote and their influence over the youth voting bloc in the midterms and in the next presidential administration, then you are wildly optimistic and I think delusional. And for those who might knee-jerk say, no, TPUSA is still super important, let's just look at numbers, right? So we can compare. Charlie Kirk has 5.73 million subscribers. This was, of course, before he passed. Candace Owens has almost 6 million. Candace Owens gets millions of views per episode. Charlie Kirk's channel, which is now run by his best friends, gets 4.7, 11,000, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000. This video 2 weeks ago seems to have performed better than the others at 42,000 views. I'm going to be super frank. My channel, with only 4,000 subscribers, gets roughly the same views. Not in the 20s, but 10.
There is some truth there. There is some truth there. That is definitely a problem. And Dominique is right on the button. One of the problems is it's already been shown that a lot of Candace's views are bots. So there's that problem right there. So those are, and they're also international. If we could get rid of the bots, if we can get rid of the international, I bet you those numbers are considerably lower, but not by much. The problem is, I think, and she's saying it, TPUSA is not drawing those people, and that's the problem.
1,000, 13,000, 12,000 views. Let's compare this to Charlie. 11 million views debating a girl a year ago on a college campus. 8 million, 7 million, 5 million, 4.2 million, 3.7 million. Ironically, talking about ERIKA KIRK, here in this thumbnail, you can see that he's holding Erika's hand and he says, the key to a thriving marriage and meaningful life. 1 year ago, 1.3 million views. Obviously, a stark decline from the views that the channel is now getting. And of course, Charlie Kirk was TPUSA. He is the personality. So it makes sense that there would be some drop off in viewership. But for it to go from 350,000 for a podcast video, which was pretty typical for him, to 11,000 views, again, which is the viewership that a channel the size of mine gets, is an extremely telling metric to the waning influence of Charlie's legacy and of TPUSA. And again, that lands squarely on Candace Owens and this whole concerted campaign on the new rights. And unfortunately, ERIKA KIRK backing out of the speaking engagement is only a temperature check. TPUSA youth completely rejected ERIKA KIRK. And in doing so, I'm going to make the bold claim again, have completely eroded the legitimacy and the influence of TPUSA. And then this is my most radical claim, which maybe some of you, if you made it to the end of this video, might vehemently disagree with. But I do blame TPUSA, their leadership, their board of directors, and honestly, ERIKA KIRK herself for allowing things to escalate to the point that they did with Candace Owens. The fact that on April 15th, Candace Owens has not been sued personally by ERIKA KIRK, by TPUSA, the organization, because I believe she was still technically working with TPUSA, which means that she had an NDA as well that she completely violated in making this content. So there are many legal avenues to go after Candace Owens, and not one of them has been pursued. And if the reasoning behind that is, oh, we don't want to give her more attention, I mean, she far outnumbers the influence of TPUSA from a media perspective. Suing Candace isn't going to make her more popular. It might give her more material, but she makes material out of nothing. She will continue this witch hunt against ERIKA KIRK with a suit or not.
I'm going to disagree with Dominique right here, simply because it's not just TPUSA or ERIKA KIRK suing Candace. It's Cantifa. That's the problem. Her radicalized, it might not be millions, but just the amount of people that follow her that will completely do the most ridiculous things. And to me, that's the thing that you got to look out for as well. Her base is insane. And I don't think maybe they just didn't want that smoke. Maybe they did forego it too long. I agree with you that they probably, but maybe they were also trying to weigh in the fact that if we get into this, it's going to get ugly. They're going to be coming to TPUSA. They're going to be coming to the office. They know where they live. I mean, that kind of stuff like that. It's crazy.
And I promise you, if ERIKA KIRK sued her for libel, she would win. I mean, just the Bride of Charlie series, a 7-part episode alone would be enough. It is not Christian restraint to not sue her. I think TPUSA saw the traction Candace was creating, as well as those within the new right camp politically outside of Candace's campaign, and didn't want to lose influence with their base. But instead, the new right policy perspective and worldview, a pseudo-Christianity and anti-Western ethos, has metastasized and taken over almost half of TPUSA's student demographic, not going after Candace, not calling it out, even inviting Tucker Carlson to AmFest in an attempt to not split their base. They straddled the fence so hard that they've completely lost their base altogether. It is not moral to abdicate picking a side between right and wrong. Capitulating to evil, again, in the now, in the present, typically always yields a losing outcome for the righteous side. And I would say in the process of capitulating, you're no longer righteous. This goes for everything. And the most radical example, which I know is so hyperbolic, is Hitler. Europe capitulated to Hitler for years during the interwar period when they knew that they were stockpiling arms and they were rebuilding their military, which went against the Treaty of Versailles. No one did anything about it. And then when he invaded Czechoslovakia and Poland, well, maybe he'll stop there. Yeah, he stopped all the way into a full-scale world war. And then the cost of addressing that evil, once it is a large enough threat, is so much greater than it would have been to have cut it down at its knees when it was a growing problem, but a manageable threat. Unfortunately, I think ERIKA KIRK bowing out of this event is just the first in many situations where we are going to see the radical new right base within the GOP intimidate and try and bend the party's will to the radical fringe extremes. And again, look at the radical left, the youth, and the power of the youth vote is strong enough to completely change the Overton window of a political party. With that, I will leave you and I will see you in the next episode.
Shout out to Dominique Hoffman. I'm going to leave the link down to that video down in the description. Please go check her out. Make sure you like her video, subscribe, give her some green hearts. Let her know that I sent you. I agree with a lot of what she said. I don't know about the lawsuit part, but I think getting into an intellectual talking head battle, I think is actually where TPUSA can shift the discussion. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Give me your strategy for resolving this issue. Well, what is your strategy of attack? Do they sue? Do they get more talking heads? Do they look for better talent? Do they go full scale? What do they do? What does TPUSA do to root out all of the foolishness within TPUSA and within the right, and then also to keep growing and pushing forward with his conservative GOP values? Let me know what you think. I appreciate you. Until next time, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the JWhit Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.